Thank you, Carl. Yes, fellow Toastmasters and our honored guests, you didn't hear it last week, but I told everybody how simple and easy it was to start a veggie garden. Oh, you just find a spot in the yard and you line it with dirt, and then you wet it down real well because our soil's so hard. And with a shovel, if you just use your weight and jump on it, it'll just go right through. Mix some mulch in and put some seeds down, fertilize a little bit, and you'll have beautiful, delicious veggies. Well, many of you are skeptical. And rightfully so. Howard came to me later and said, what do you do when the shovel hits a big rock of caliche? Or all these things that it's never really that simple. Our ground is a hard baked clay. Everybody knows that. And yes, it softens when you water it down. But it doesn't mix that well and that easily with mulch. Well, one member here wanted me to prove it. And she threw into that her 4-year-old son was having a birthday and he wanted a garden so much. For me, that was a great opportunity because I really do love starting a garden. So I invited her over, Esther over with her son Daniel, and they came over to our house. They started first by looking at the garden plot that we have, and Daniel loved it. He ran right up to the carrots and said, I want a carrot. And so he tried to pull it up, and I bent down with him, and we pulled it up together and got this big carrot out of the ground. It just reminded me of when I would be out there with my son when he was so young, although our garden wasn't big like that at that time. Then Esther showed me a picture of the area that we'd be working on at her house. I couldn't really see it that well. I didn't want to admit that I needed my reading glasses. I kind of looked at the picture on the phone and it looked like there were some rocks there. And I said, no problem. We'll take care of it. Well, I got over to their house, and with any project, there's bound to be issues. The first thing I noticed at the house when I went up there, it's patio homes. So there's not a big area out back. And when I did get out back, it was all these paving rocks, paving stones. I thought, are we going to pick all those up and do a garden there? Well, over on the side of the house is where she wanted to put the garden in. And at the right then, when we get out there, it's covered in the half-inch rocks. And they're probably a couple inches deep. And it faces south. There's a hot wall that faces east. The plot faces south. Hot wall facing east, hot wall facing west, and 6 feet in between, and that's where we'll put the garden. And I thought, well, this is going to be a real challenge because this is going to be very hot here. And also I have all these half-inch rocks to remove first. Well, I described before using a pointed shovel, you just dig into the ground, but when you have those half-inch rocks, you got to get those out of the way first. So the solution for that was a flat-bladed shovel. Fortunately, I was able to tell, looking at Esther's picture, that it did look like there's some rocks there. And so I had brought my flat-bladed shovel over. And after, you just have to kind of pick away at those, kick at the shovel, get all those half-inch rocks out. They pack down in there. They'll end up being the 1/4-inch ones and the fine ones, the sand and all. They kind of do pack in together almost like concrete, but it only took about 10 or 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes to scrape that all out. You want to make sure you use a flat-bladed shovel because you don't want to dig the dirt up with the rocks. What you're doing is dumping those rocks over into another area that has the half-inch rocks. And you build it up higher, so now you've got an inch or two of the half-inch rock plus what you've piled on top of it. So you've got a nice berm around the area, which is nice. It'll hold the water in. And once you've scraped all that clean down to the dirt, now you can start digging to mix in the mulch. So then we went to the pointed shovel. And fortunately, the ground was fairly soft. We didn't have to soak it. Fortunately, maybe not fortunately, because if we had to soak it, I could have just said, you'll have to do this later. But again, I like digging the dirt. I'm just teasing on that. So we were able to dig it up, go down about the depth of the shovel blade. Esther had bought 4 large bags of very good mulch, and she dragged those over and broke open the bags and poured it on the ground as I mixed the dirt, and we got it all mixed in very well. We made, in order to keep the water from soaking around the plants too much, we made little raised areas where we put the seeds. But now to be able to keep the water in that raised area, it won't run off before the seeds start to germinate, you put about a 2-inch or 1-inch berm around the raised area. So basically what you have is a plateau like a mesa with a berm up around it. You put those seeds in there according to the directions on the package. She was doing zucchini and squash. It said to go 1 inch deep. And we put about 5 or 6 of them around the circle. You only let 1 or 2 of them grow to maturity, but you want to make sure you get something, that you don't go to all that work, and then if you only put 1 or 2 seeds in, they don't sprout. So you pull out the extra ones once they start to grow. And then now to solve the problem of the hot area, Esther came up with a solution, something I hadn't thought of, was to use shade screen. They sell that at the hardware store. And because she's got the wall of the house here and the wall of the yard there, using some anchors, she could put a shade screen into the house and into the wall, put that over about 3 or 4 feet, 5 feet, whatever you want to do, above the plants, and that'll give them the shade that they need to keep growing through the summer. A little bit of an extra bonus was to be able to do this with Daniel working around me. It reminded me of my son, how excited he would get when you're working on a project, but within about 10 minutes he'd have a toy out there wanting you to play with that. Daniel had his Transformer helicopter and he held it up and said, "Do you know how to turn this into a robot?" It's precious. And watching him walk around our yard, my wife commented, "Little Daniel there holding that big carrot following us around the yard." It's a wonderful experience working in the garden. If you give a speech sometime, though, to show how simple something is, be prepared to do it. But I love doing it. But I sure do, and I had a great time. Mr. Toastmaster.